Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Berkovich, and I'm with Film Independent. Today, we're doing a Filmmaker Tuesday program called Spotlight Your Story, where you're going to be hearing from the Artist Development Program, particularly around the Documentary Story Lab and the Episodic Lab. We'll be hearing from some of our colleagues about those, as well as some fellows who'll be joining us who participated in those labs. So here to tell us more today, we have Dia Vazquez is the Associate Director of Fiction Programs. Hi, Dia.
Hello.
We have Daniel Cardone, the Senior Manager of Nonfiction Programs and Fiscal Sponsorship. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Ashley Flores, Manager of Fiction Programs. Welcome, Ashley. Great. And then they're going to be talking for about 20 to 25 minutes, and then the fellows will be joining us today. We're going to have Erica Bardin, Ben Gonzalez, and Daniel Lombroso joining us in a little while to speak about their experience in the programs. So the end will also be open for Q&A. So if you would like to submit your questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom, and we will filter through those. All right. Feel free to take it away.
All right, we're going to get things started with an overview of both programs, and we have a little presentation for y'all. So let's get started with the Episodic Lab. So in the Episodic Lab, we accept 6 projects, and this is a 2-week in-person lab at our offices in Los Angeles. You do not need to be based in LA, though we are not always able to fund travel or housing if you are outside of Los Angeles. In the program, you're going to be workshopping both a pitch and a pilot and a series proposal. So this is really, it's not just about your pilot script, it's really about the vision for the whole show, which is what you'll be working on in the program. We accept writers that are different stages of their career. We've had fellows that have done the program that are looking to break in, looking to staff. And we've also had folks that have staffed several times and are really at the stage of their career where they're starting to go out with their own shows and they're looking to set projects up and eventually show run. Each project will be paired with a creative advisor who's an established writer in TV, and typically speaking, those folks are going to be from the co-exec, co-EP to showrunner level. The lab is going to wrap with a pitching event where you'll be pitching to a panel of television executives, and you will be workshopping a 5-minute version. So not the big full version that you would actually take into a studio. This is the 5-minute version of your pitch. Think of it as the extended elevator pitch, the pitch you would pull out when someone asks you what you're working on. Casually, and the idea here is for you to have a succinct nugget for you to be pitching not just your project, but also yourself.
And this all culminates into the final networking and pitch event at the end of the 2 weeks. Application date. So the application will be open in a couple of weeks. We have the non-member deadline. It's February 2nd. 2026, so mark your calendars, and the extended member deadline, which is February 16th, 2026. So keep an eye out for applications.
So we are looking for writers with original long-form episodic projects. As far as the stage that you should be at with your script when you apply to the program, I'd say that you've taken it as far as you can. You have a very strong idea of character arcs, themes, and the story that you're trying to tell, but perhaps you're still trying to like land the ending. You're still workshopping the story engine a little bit. So it should be in a place where you've gone through several drafts. This is not your first draft. This is not your first crack at the story. We are very open to any genre, including animation, and we're always looking for bold stories that are told from an authentic POV.
So the application is going to include a few things. We're going to be looking for a cover letter where you introduce yourself to us, an artistic statement where you tell us a bit about the project, yourself, and why you are applying with this project, the one complete original pilot, a series logline and pilot synopsis, a series description describing the story engine and series arc of the show. And then there's an extra box that says project status and history, where you include any industry exposure. Often the box that I think people overlook. So really just tell us how long you've been working on this project, who's giving you feedback, and then a series of proposal document.
And the series proposal document that we're looking for, it can be anything from a series Bible, a lookbook, but it can also be just a typed out document that gives us so what we're really looking for is the world, character descriptions, character, and their first season arcs. Essentially, that's what we're looking for in addition to a logline for the full series. And typically that document is going to run you between 3 and 4 pages. And often people will embed all of that information inside the lookbook. Either is fine. We do not have a preference, whatever works best for you. So what is a cover letter? So a cover letter is really where you're introducing yourself to us and also explaining why you should do this program, and why you're at the right stage of your career to do this program, but also why the project is at the correct stage to do this program. And for the Episodic Lab, as it is a writing lab, we always love to know what do you want to work on? Like perhaps you're not landing, like the character arcs aren't quite there. Like whatever it is, like be honest with us because that's going to be very helpful for us to have a strong sense of what you're looking to do in the lab. An artistic statement is you're sharing your vision for the project. So think of cover letter as why you, an artistic statement's a little bit more why this project and how you see it coming to fruition. And your bio should be, just like a paragraph of your career achievements to this point. And do not regurgitate your bio in your cover letter because know that we'll definitely be reading both. I mentioned what we were looking for in the series proposal document, and as Ashley mentioned for project history and status, it can also be about like if this has been set up somewhere. That's helpful for information. Do you have any attachments? Perhaps it was set up and the right to revert it back to you. Those are things that we would want to know.
I'll also add that in the cover letter, this is the first introduction to you. We only get the application and your pilot script. So really using all of the real estate you have to introduce to us who you are. We have 2 grants available for qualifying projects. That's the Kate Goldrick Family Foundation Fellowship, and the Impact Hollywood Bureau Fellowship. You'll see it has some extra boxes within the application if you do qualify for one of the 2, and some additional essays that you'll have to write.
So these are some of the illustrious fellows that have done the lab, and have gone on to build successful careers in the television space. I would really say like more than any of the other labs, like this is a career-oriented lab. So this is really for folks that are looking to build a career within the episodic space, as opposed to like getting this one film made. There's a lot of them. I won't read them all. We're very proud of them all.
And now a couple of slides with FAQs. You do not need to live in LA, but must attend the full lab in person. This happens in August. 1 script per application. Like we said earlier, what makes a strong application is a distinctive voice, a compelling story, and clear artistic vision. Really use the application to tell us who you are and why this project. The lab is for fiction episodic pilots. All genres are welcome. Because we get so many applications, unfortunately, we don't have time to give feedback on applications. So it's a question we often get. We do not directly fund, apart from the grants that we give to specific projects that are accepted, we do not directly fund any projects or produce any projects. And by participating in the lab, you do become a Film Independent Fellow, part of the fellow family.
So in the lab, this is only for writers. If you have a producer attached, that's wonderful. They cannot do the lab with you. Writing teams would submit one application. As we mentioned, all experience levels are welcome. This is not like geared towards one or the other, and we actually think it's best when we have folks with different levels of experience in the lab. It creates a space where you can really learn from each other. International applicants are eligible, though your script does need to be in English. And this is for episodic pilots only, so fiction episodic, I should say. So we do not support documentary projects or shorts in this program. Your pilot needs to be original or adapted from source material that you have an option to, and we would ask for proof of that when you are applying to the program. You are absolutely allowed and encouraged to reapply. We get a lot of applications for this specific program, and we only have 6 slots. So there's always a ton of projects that we'd love to support that we can't, and sometimes reapply and get into the lab the following year. And we would just ask that there be significant updates to the project. Because if it's the exact same project that we already saw, we're gonna wonder like what you've done to like move it forward in this past year. And there are no prerequisites that you had to have done another program or that you need to know any of us in any way to get into our programs. It's not set up that way. And like we mentioned, we're very happy to and have supported animation pilots. Oh, always be nice. When you are applying to these programs, this goes, of course, for ours, but for any. People sometimes don't realize that those general emails, info at, artist development at, physical sponsorship at, there are people behind those emails, people that are our colleagues, and share with us when someone has been rude to them. And I will say this happens most often when people get rejected from the labs. I know it's hard. It's hard for us. We take the selection process very seriously and we know how much time you're putting into it. But responding, saying, like, for example, I didn't need you anyway, is going to ingrain your name into my brain. And I'm going to know that you're not always going to be professional in these programs. And you have to think about how you're presenting yourself. And you're presenting yourself to us and to our colleagues, and we care a lot about how the people that answer those emails are treated. So please be kind. I know that when you get a no, it can be really hard, but it's if you're going to reply, just say thank you.
Yes, this is why we gave this helpful tip one entire slide. Oh, one more thing, if we wanted to bring this up, well, Dia and Daniel, the AI of it all.
Yes, the AI of it all. We're not saying don't use AI in your applications, but we don't want to see that you've used AI in your applications, basically. It's certainly a very helpful tool for editing, for putting thoughts together, but we receive so many applications now we can spot the tells and of an AI largely written by an application largely written by AI. And so please make sure you rewrite using your own brain, try and make sure that you're bringing yourself to these applications. The two things, or one of the things, AI tends to make a word salad out of everything. So please keep things concise. And, oh yeah, what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, it's a writing lab. The episodic lab is a writing lab. So we want to see your writing skills. So just a thought.
One more helpful tip before we move on is just make sure to proofread your applications. We are aware and encourage you to apply to programs at some of our amazing partner organizations, but make sure that you're not starting your cover letter to a film independent program with like Dear WIF or Dear SF Film or Dear Sundance. It has happened before. We know that you have written one cover letter that you're adjusting for each of these programs. Totally fair. Like, not saying don't do that, but just make sure that you're proofreading before you hit submit.
All right. And with that, we transition to Daniel.
Onto the Documentary Story Lab. Yes, the Documentary Story Lab, this will be its third year that we've been running the lab coming up. It's going to take place in early-ish spring. We don't have an exact date yet, but it'll be either late April or early May. if you want to click through, here we are. So, held in the spring, as I said, the week-long documentary story lab for directors that focuses on nonfiction features in post-production with an emphasis on structure and editing. So it's in 1 week in person at the Film Independent offices in Los Angeles. We select 6 directors, and that is 6 directors only. We do not take producers or any other crew members for this lab, although you can be a director producer of your own film. We get that 1 week is jam-packed with information from usually around 9:30 in the morning till 5:30 in the afternoon. It's pretty much non-stop. We have documentary directors, institutional funders, legal professionals, distributors, and most importantly, you are assigned an editing mentor and a directing mentor for one-on-one support. So that person will do a session with you in the group with all the other fellows, and then that support will continue outside of the lab for minimum 2 more sessions. So that's a great benefit that continues beyond the 1 week that you're with us for the lab. Everyone's expected to come with at least a rough assembly of their film or a rough edit because we need that to sort of basically see what your footage is. We're looking at the structure. We're looking at how things fit together. What is the story you're trying to tell, and how can we help you make that the best possible story that you can possibly make? Yeah. And lastly, the participants all become Film Independent Fellows with year-round support. Film Independent. The deadline is December 15th, which is really soon, but luckily there is an extended member deadline in January the 5th, but I'm also happy to offer extensions. So you just have to email me and you can get an extension. All right, what we're looking for talented filmmakers with documentary projects that are compelling, original, and demonstrate a unique vision. Obviously, that would be what any lab is looking for. But in particular, the Story Lab is a place where we can really take a chance on documentary projects that are really challenging conventions, really challenging narrative structures and things like that. If your film is weird, has a different way of being put together, is a film about how bacteria in your bathroom replicates the journey your grandmother took after World War II, then that's the kind of thing we want. We want to see how you're making these things work together. And it is the place where we can really massage these ideas and really make them exciting. Like last year we had a film about orchids. Basically in growing in Colombia. And that is this incredible metaphor for all the political turmoil and environmental turmoil that's happening there now. So, yeah, bring us your weird, bring us your strange, bring us your compelling. That's not to say we're not going to be interested in things that are more conventional, but we are definitely looking for things that can be shaped during this process, that maybe have a few different ways they can go, and they need to sort of be, workshopped in this way to sort of make sure they hit their goals. As I said earlier, directors only, and but basically also projects that are in the final stages of production or early post-production. We don't want things that are too far along approaching the final edit, and we also don't want things in the research and development phase. So as long as you've shot the majority of the film, you have a string out at the very least that we could look at by the time the lab starts. I should stress that you do not need that to submit an application. I believe we talk more about that on the next slide. Yes, here we go. So, so on the application, as with the Episodic Lab, we need a cover letter explaining why you need to apply or why you want to apply for the Documentary Story Lab and why this is the right time for you to participate in the program. That's really key in terms of being able to introduce yourself as a filmmaker and why you think this is the particular lab for you at this point. So really talk about your approach to the material, how you feel about the material and what you're struggling with, and how you think this kind of environment could be beneficial to you. Much like anyone who's been applying for documentary grants the last couple of years is aware of certain questions that we ask. So apart from logline, story summary, topic summary, artistic approach, we also ask for questions like connection and access, accountability, community care and safety, in addition to project stage and timeline, audience consideration, and impact and accessibility. We also ask for everyone's bios, and funding to date, budget information. This is just to see sort of what the scope of the project is. Those two don't tend to influence the project too much. It really is content based in terms of our decision making. And yeah, to wrap it up, we just ask for a work sample from the project that you're applying with. Um, it's great for you to have a polished trailer, but I also want to see some scene selects as well. So it's nice if you have a trailer that sort of sets the tone, gives me an idea of what we're looking at, and then a few scenes. It's okay if you don't have a trailer as well. But even if you've got a complete rough cut, apply with that. But otherwise, we only need the assembly or the rough cut ready about 2 weeks before the start of the lab. And that's because we're going to share that with all your advisors and the other people in the lab too. So everyone has access to it and can be involved in this workshop process. Okay, we have 3 potential grants available to people who are taking part in the lab. So we have the Caton Goldrich Family Foundation Fellowship, which is for filmmakers who identify as Jewish. We have the Impact Hollywood Bureau Fellowship, which is for Muslim filmmakers. And we have the Sony Music Vision grant, which is available to filmmakers who are presenting a project that is either very music forward, and we don't mean you use cool needle drops. Music has to be an integral part of the project, or even if it's not music, something where sound design plays a very important part in the film. So anything that really uses that audio element as a big part of the storytelling process. So there are questions on the application form. We do not have to grant these projects these grants if there's no project that fits necessarily, but certainly we ask you if you think your project fits into one of these categories, please flag it and we'll give it extra attention. Questions. All right, that's enough out of me. I'm sure people have questions to ask. So if you have any questions for either myself or Dear or Ashley, please throw them at us.
All right. Are applications evaluated on a rolling basis? No. So they're evaluated per program. So essentially we'll be in evaluations from the close of the application to the start, well, to say like about a month before the start of the program. That's when we're really evaluating the submissions. What are examples of the project updates you're wanting to know for the resubmissions? Have you written a new draft? Do you have new attachments? Are you taking the project in a different direction? Are the types of things that we would want to know.
Also, with the documentary space, that's one space where reapplications is very important because within the space of a year, you may have made a lot of updates to your film and filmed a lot more material or restructured the film. So please don't let that be dissuade you if you didn't get in 1 year and you want to reapply the next year.
Thoughts on using AI tools in images, visuals for lookbooks. I mean, I think here this is really about your artistic vision and if those images are suitable for what you're going for. So that's something that I think that you need to evaluate yourself on an artistic basis. So
Sorry, Dia, were you gonna say something
oh,
else?
oh no, I was just throwing it to you.
Okay, all right. So yes, we do accept co-directing pairs to the doc producing lab. Doc story lab. We don't as yet have programs for documentary films in earlier stages, but we're working on it and hope to have something within the next short period of time. I'm not sure exactly, but yes, we're definitely aware that there needs to be more programs for developing projects, so that's something we want to address.
Can someone apply to multiple programs that say they have a feature documentary, but also want to submit to TV Writers Lab? Absolutely. We have fellows that crossed into different programs.
Mm-hmm.
There is the only one where it's going to be difficult for you to be doing multiple programs at the same time is if you apply to PI and you're applying to the labs because Project Involve is very rigorous. So depending on your track in PI and which specific lab you're looking for, that's when we're going to have to ask you to pick and choose.
Okay, so with the Story Lab, the samples, I would say, even if it's really rough, I would say for the Story Lab, yeah, send us things that are dramatic, or I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? things that convey your story. What are the stakes? What are the highlights? Like, is it visually spectacular? That'll be something you can foreground. Is it about the character interactions? So think about what you're writing in the application and then show me something that echoes what you've written in the application. Always, that's actually a good point, I think, is that if you're writing something here, but I can't see it at all in the sample, that's kind of like a warning sign to me. I need to be able to see like what you've got in your sample is echoing what you've written in the text. And so that I know that your kind of vision is, collaborative and is kind of connected.
I have a big world idea for the episodic lab. Does the budget affect the likelihood of it being? No, not at all. Yeah, the answer would be very different for a screenwriting lab or producing lab, but not for TV. Go as big as you want. And sizzle reels.
Sizzle reels. Oh, I didn't see that question. Yes, sizzle reels are fine.
And for the resubmissions, so there's actually going to be a box. We're going to ask you if you've applied before, and an updates box will pop up on the application, and that's where we would like you to let us know. One script per application. So you can apply with multiple projects, and we have had folks that have gotten in, and we just let them know you got in for your one project. That is the project that you will be workshopping.
Okay, for documentary, can we define what we mean by an assembly cut? Yes, understandable. A string out might be a 10-hour cut. We would need to see something manageable for the lab. So we did have someone in the past literally have a 10-hour cut. They had to pull 2 hours out of it so that we could discuss in the lab. So that would be your call on what parts you want us to discuss or what parts you want us to focus on. But we do need a manageable string out or rough edit or whatever it is to be able to look at in the lab. Yeah, definitely.
Attachments, are they something of value for your project? I mean, yes and no. It's not going to be something that's going to make or break an application. And we're also always evaluating whether, like, is this the right person that's going to be helping you, like, bring this project to fruition. I wouldn't say, like, if you don't have attachments, don't apply. Don't worry about that, especially for the episodic lab. How about for you for Doc Story Lab, Daniel?
Usually because the films are late production or finished production, any attachments are already in place. It doesn't bear a huge amount of weight in this instance, because again, we're looking at the materials, the story itself, the footage that you've shot, more than, a name producer or something like that. It doesn't hurt, but at the same time, it's not really gonna make or break your project.
So for the artistic statement for the episodic lab, I would say think of it more of the director's statement for a feature. So this is really more about your vision for it, and not necessarily how you're planning on putting it together. The word counts for all the application sections will be in the application. To clarify, it sounds like the goal of the episodic lab is more to help advance the careers of TV writer than to get the submitted project made. They're both goals. So it's about, of course, we want you to sell your project, or make it in the burgeoning independent space for television. But it's also very much about the career of a television writer.
Yeah, and in regard to the doc lab, which the person who asked the question mentioned, um, yes, it is a little bit more project focused, but we do have skills in there that are going to benefit filmmakers throughout their career as well. But it is more project focused.
With the USA putting visa restrictions on Haitian nationals. We don't delve into that sort of thing for the labs. Yeah, that's what I would say about that. Are there any additional essay questions involved for the applicant? No, we went over all the essays that we would do. When someone completes the episodic lab, what do they get away? Well, I mean, we could talk about this with Ben and Erica very shortly. So what you're gonna get essentially is you're gonna get a ton of notes on your script, and you're also going to get a 5-minute version of your pitch, which we see as something that's going to help you pitch yourself. And this is something that we emphasize a lot in the lab. It's not just about pitching the project, it's about pitching yourselves and making sure that the person that is hearing the pitch has a strong understanding of who you are as an artist, and of course, why they should work with you. And with that, I think it's time to bring our lovely fellows into the conversation. So if you could all turn your cameras on.
And I'll be in the background answering any questions you might have.
Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us, Ben and Erica and Daniel. And if I could have each of you introduce yourselves and let us know which projects you participated in.
After you, Daniel.
Hey, great to be here. I'm Daniel Lombroso. I was in the documentary edit lab with Dan Cardone, which was amazing. And I was there with Manhood, which is a feature documentary about penis enlargement, but it's a deeper story about modern masculinity and the manosphere and right-wing politics, and kind of using that really fun hook to explore larger, weirder things happening in America. And the lab was like the real incubation place for the String Out.
And just to correct you, sorry, Daniel, it's the documentary story lab, not doc edit lab. Just
Sorry,
wanted
documentary story lab.
sorry about that.
Apologies.
First of all, Daniel, how do we watch that? I want to watch that immediately.
Um, Hopefully will be available soon. We
Okay.
don't have, yeah, we're at Picture Lock and submitting around, and hopefully we'll have good news in the near future.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Erica. This
I'm
is my partner Ben, and we were in the Episodic lab for a 30-minute comedic horror thriller, half hour called The Deed, and it really explored a guy that was sort of being punished for being too nice and trying to overcome the expectations of being a first-gen immigrant and chasing that American dream, ends up landing the inheritance of a house after having all of this financial trouble. The only problem is the stipulation that comes with it is there's you can pick up, by the way, at any time.
There's a monster.
There's a monster. There's a monster living in the pool house.
Yeah, there's a monster. There's a demon. There's a blood oath or a maid, and kind of like a telltale heart. It starts kind of falling apart as things go forward, and he has to kind of navigate the sacrifices he's making for his own life and the life of his family.
Yeah, he has to deliver bodies to get his wishes.
Literal sacrifices. So.
Wonderful. I'd love to hear how you each got introduced to Film Independent.
I mean, it's just like the coolest. I feel like there's not that many organizations in the States that do this sort of work. Maybe it's more common in Europe, but I feel like Film Independent has just always been on my radar with Indie Spirits and, people I know who've come in and out. I think the direct connection was knowing Alana Waxman, who works with Daniel Cardone in the Story Lab, and then having met Daniel over the years. It's just something I always wanted to be a part of. And then when we were at the String Out phase, we like really needed more input, and it's too early to really share in documentary more widely because things spread, people share links, word gets around. Like you want like a safe space to share with people, knowing that it's like starting to articulate the vision, but it's still early. You don't want buyers to see it, obviously, or even programmers. So it just like, I don't know, really trusted Daniel and Alana, and it seemed amazing and was definitely the best lab I've done. And I've done things I come from journalism, so I've done similar things in both in journalism and film, and this one was really special. I think it was, I don't want to name the number because I'm going to get more than a handful of 8 of us, Daniel?
7.
7 of us. And we all just got to know each other. I'm friends with them now. Daniel just did a Zoom call last week. I'm sorry you didn't get the invite. There were no parents allowed on the call, so it was just just us. But we all keep up with each other, and we hang out. The ones who are in New York, we still hang out. So it's definitely, it was just an awesome experience all around.
Great.
We have I think this is how I first really came across Film Independent was I think we actually did a wardrobe fitting for an indie pilot that we shot at Film Independent. We were gonna try and do the
Yes.
table read there, I think.
Yes.
So but that was like long before
Yeah.
we applied, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, we really had the bug to write this project and then we wanted to do something with it and we'd been familiar with Film Independent. I had been in a contemporary episodic lab a couple of years prior.
We never heard anything about anything bad about Film Independent, and you kind of get around in town and start to kind of hear things about different places. And there was the one place I'd only ever heard good things. I hadn't had a close friend take any of the labs yet, but we were excited to see what it was, and afterwards, like very blown away.
Yeah, we definitely heard like it's the place to be.
And we found out afterwards that
It
that
is.
is in fact true. I mean, endurance is such a huge thing in this industry. And I feel like with so many other labs that probably do a lot of good things, there's this level of I don't know if it's delusion or just kind of making you feel like everything's going to be great. And I never got that feeling. I got the feeling that I was believed in, that we were believed in, and everyone was really professional, and everybody just took it so
Yeah.
honestly serious, and it was fantastic. And going back to all of the alumni meetups and stuff, it's a very comfortable, professional, just great place to be.
And we still talk to our cohort. We may be going to a cookie
Cookie party
party
on Saturday or
on
Sunday.
Saturday.
Saturday. I've heard of this cookie party. I
You've
mean,
heard of
very
this.
well.
We are surviving parenthood, so we'll see. It's a day to day. It's a day to day.
As we mentioned in the presentation, pitching is a big element of the labs. So I'd love to hear a little bit about like your experiences developing your pitches,
Mm.
and what were some of the takeaways during that specific process.
It's so important to articulate what your film is, what the market is, who it's for, your own genesis as a filmmaker and your voice. And I botched it like repeatedly at in the small seminar. The head of the Sundance Institute was there, and we had other people come through and coach us, and that was an amazing experience. So that by Friday, when we pitched for a wider audience, I felt much more ready. I think it was my third time going through the pitch, and I do pitches all the time to raise money or for buyers or whatever. But this felt so much more thorough because it was maybe around 5 minutes, like weaving together both like my experience as a filmmaker, what led me to the topic, the film. We showed a sample, so like it had to be kind of like a braided, coherent pitch, and I'm sure a lot of those elements have stayed with me, like in the making of the film. Um, and yeah, we had really promising conversations after the pitch. I think there were like 6 or 7 different parties there, like programmers, commissioners, etc. And some of those are still ongoing, 8 months after the lab.
For us. Yeah, I mean, the pitch process for us was interesting is that we both have done a lot of stand up in the past, and so we're very familiar with the Type Five, and I feel like I learned so much more that uh, uh, um, uh, helped me with my comedy as far as seeing how a 5 minute set works because yeah, it was very thorough. They kept breaking it down, we kept redoing it, and yeah, by the end it was very tight and it felt the comfortability we had with our story at that point and what we were trying to say in that amount of time was fantastic.
I mean, by the end.
By the end,
Yeah. I think I'm sure some writers can relate to this. I think it's definitely the like go big to then cut to what the core of the pitch is. Because you think that you need to have all of these elements because it's so short, but actually you need to also leave room for, as Dia spoke to earlier, like leave room for you as the artist to come through the pitch. Leave room for those moments to speak to, just inherently speak to like, why are these people, why is this person telling this story? And I want to see how they execute this narrative that they've been pitching, because I'm also very interested in like the nuances of even their delivery, their perspective, who they are. So, and you get told this a lot, right? Like, come up with like the weird thing that you're gonna say about yourself, or what makes things specific to you. But it really is true. Like, if you're on the other side of that, you can see why it's easier to lock in and pay attention when you're somebody that's listening to pitches all day long. You're listening to such volume of content. Things just need to really like cut through.
How has this impacted your pitching post lab when you have more than 5 minutes to pitch?
Interesting. I think just to piggyback, the personal is so important. I come from journalism and it's always about like context. Why is this story important? So I'm like, okay, it's penis enlargement, but it's really about manosphere. Like that's how I learned to pitch. And this made me kind of learn another way, which is like Kristen Feely from the Sundance Institute and Daniel and Alana kept kind of bringing about like why you, why are you tethered to this story? And it made me think more critically about it. Like I have a much larger fascination in like sad American men and why American men are, there's this loneliness epidemic in the country, connects to things that I grew up like, made me really like interrogate my own childhood and belief systems. And actually I'm now making a film about my father, and like that started before, but like I have to think that like some of that personal examination happened that week, because like the spaces I had been in prior, it's just not something you did. I used to work at like big magazines. So no, David Remnick is not turning to you and saying like, but Daniel, why are you the storyteller? Like what from your life led you there? So that was really fascinating for me and definitely something I'm carrying with me on future projects and on this project.
I think what I took away from it that I loved is, oftentimes like we have a background in improv as well, that it's okay to like to do a pitch over and over and over. Sometimes like being, having sort of a comedic performance bone, sometimes you're inherently turned off by the idea of overdoing something and like oversaturating yourself with that content. But it helps you learn how to do things a little bit differently every time and still get the essence of the content out. And so I thought that like to go through the pitch as many times as you do, like at first you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But then you so appreciate it at the end. It's like all of a sudden after boot camp, you have abs for the first time in your life. It's
Mhm.
it's great. And I felt like that's really helped me and not being afraid of continuing to like toil away at it.
And my answer echoes a lot what Daniel said, in that, like, a lot of times before, it was mostly, I would think of the cool thing. Oh, there's this cool thing I want to tell you about. And now I come at it from, well, there's a reason why I thought of it. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It came from somewhere. Let's do a little research. Let's do a little introspection to find out where that's coming from and how I can connect that to giving a little bit of myself in the pitch.
You're the cool thing.
Okay.
I'd love to talk about your creative sessions, like the actual workshopping of your projects within the program. Can you talk us through what that process was like for you, and what it was like to share your work, not just with your advisor, but with also in all of our programs, your fellow fellows are going to be watching and reading your work and giving you feedback in addition to your advisor. So whoever would like to go first.
It was amazing. I mean, it was the first group that saw a cut. The cut is now 89 minutes. I think at that time it was like 2 hours. So that probably gives helpful perspective. It was like 20 to 30 minutes longer than now. I think we might not have, I think when we like had hardly been cut at three. Like that, it started to, like some scenes like were really lagging, but you could at least see what we were trying to do. Then it allowed me to ask larger questions. Like to give an example, there's like one guy who got botched. Sorry, this is like very, but like really hard, thorny questions. Like there's a guy who got botched by a bad doctor, and like we had really difficult questions around like his appearance, like how vulnerable he should be. There were times when he wanted to use AI to replace his face. He actually, Daniel, you don't know this news, but he watched the film, loved it, came around, and he's going to be in the film now, which is amazing.
Happy.
But these are like months long ethical conversation. No one in his family even knew that happened to him, and that first time I like had those conversations, I have, of course, with the subject, but also with people in the film world, was in Film Independent. Absolutely true. And only a month ago, we showed him the final cut, and he agreed to be in the film. And there are a lot of things like that, like the bad doctor, who the main character is not that bad, but there's a bad doctor, and there are like really thorny legal questions there. Also, how to portray.
And so did you, so that was a different thing. Was her perspective echoing Claire's? Did you bring a different thing to it, different aspect?
Yeah, she was super helpful too. It was more focused on form, I would say. Like they had totally different. Claire was like, cut this, you don't need him. And Alyssa was thinking more about style. So she gave us actually a great idea to use a lot of like penis architecture in establishing shots. So there's a lot of like subtle buildings that kind of look like penises. It's all very subtle, but like that came from her. She's like, anytime there's an exterior of a city, it should be like, I don't know,
Go with
something
it.
phallic.
Right.
Yeah. So she, yeah, she was super additive as well. A lot of her work's about architecture, so it makes sense that she came from that place. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Talking about
The
the
crew.
like the advisors within the program, like we're not talking about the mentorship.
You can speak to both, but if we
Okay.
could just start with the workshopping your project within the space and then like
Okay. I think it's funny. At first, it was the most terrifying to have our peers read our material, like so terrifying. And then it's like they become your favorite people to read your like they become like we all became advocates for each other's projects. And because we all got to know everyone's work and their story so well, partially from like all of the pitching, it became cool to really like grow with your relationship to that too. And then that only helps you in your own work. It was very interesting to present to different types of people within the industry. And Daniel, you were just talking about two different people like giving you different types of guidance, which I think is really, really great. Like there was definitely more on the executive side that would talk about how to position certain elements of that you want to think about when you're writing a half hour, or obviously if you're writing an hour, writing it, how you're framing it so people can understand why it's something that they should pursue. And then interestingly enough, and I don't know if it's still the same way, but who became our mentor was one of the people that looked at our material within the lab and gave us notes within the lab. And then you obviously have, you have communication with them outside of the lab. And that was so creatively focused, and I loved that. Because sometimes there's some distance from that that I've experienced and maybe other, I don't know, other programs or other experiences similar to the lab.
Um, uh, Going with what she was saying about our cohort and how well we got along, it's such a short process. I mean, it feels very long, but also very short. And it can be very difficult because you have so much excitement and you're supposed to jump in and focus on yourself, but also give to the rest of your cohort. And I think it's a testament to Dia and Ashley, like really setting the tone for trust and, yeah, just setting that tone that allowed us all to kind of like put ourselves out there and be like, okay, I don't know you at all, and I've been bitten in the past, but let's do this. And it just went so well. I've spoken to so many other people from other cohorts who have this echo the same thing. So there is a through line with Film Independent that like been very thankful for.
Oh, I just want to say too, and nobody told me to say this. I think my favorite, like, I think our mentor in the program gave me my favorite piece of creative advice almost ever. So just putting that out there.
I mean, could you share with us what
Yeah,
that
you got you
Wait,
have
what the
to.
nugget is?
She's
What the
asking.
nugget, yeah. It's very simple, but I feel like it's something that inherently people probably stay away from. But he was like, what I like to do and what I like to tell my right, like he's ran rooms and stuff. He was like, I like my writers to find the ugliest thing about themselves or people in their lives or relationships in their life. Find the ugliest and be really, really honest about it. And that's where you start when you're building a character. Like start with that. And I thought that was just, I don't know, I thought that was pretty enlightening. And I feel like that's because it's just like really digging into the humanity and the relatability. And I loved it.
She's giving me a lot of suggestions as to what she thinks that is in me.
Yes.
Oh, Daniel, sorry, dear. Was
No,
just
no,
wanted to ask Daniel, did you have a groundbreaking piece of advice that you remember from the lab?
Mm. Everything I'm going to say is generic, but like trust the process. Like documentary is all about iteration. So I feel like there was no judgment in the room. Like I don't know how many people here are doc filmmakers, but like at the string out stage, like anything's possible. And I think there was just that understanding to just like keep iterating. And we edited another 4 months until picture lock. So yeah, I think that was I don't think anyone was like sizing up each other's projects, which was really encouraging. It was just like seeing the potential and to keep chipping away.
Great.
You've already kind of spoken to this, but I'd love to hear like what surprised you about the lab? Like what is something that we threw at you that you were not expecting?
I really like the industry stuff. I don't want to like quote or anyone, but people were super honest who came through, which I really appreciated because like I worked in magazines for a long time now. I'm, in the industry and I'm repped, but it's also still super confusing to me, like what works, how it works, where how budgets are approved, and we had a few people, and there's one person in particular I'm thinking of who was just like so honest about her career, things she wishes she did differently, not about her films, but almost like business. And lessons she's learned over time. And like that was just like so helpful because it's so rare that executives or people at that level or even filmmakers open up about like the business side in their experience. So yeah, the industry people were amazing. And then actually this one is totally fine to share is the film collaborative. There's a amazing film distribution festival distribution company. Orly, who's like the lawyer who runs it there, is now helping Manhood, our film, on the festival circuit. And she had amazing ideas, and she went around the table and gave everyone like 5 or 10 minutes to talk about their film and its problems, but not like business problems, like how to raise money, who to give points to, contracts, and like that was just like the coolest. I don't know. I could have watched her do that all day, and the advice she gave to us was really, really helpful. So it's super way more practical than I expected, and I'm really appreciative of that.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised at how hands-on it was and how robust the programming was. You think like, oh, it's 2 weeks. What's going to happen in 2 weeks? But they have literally thought about sort of every angle that can help you grow. as a writer and can help you figure out your project just so holistically. And again, like I had another episodic lab to reference, and I don't know if I should say this. I'm just gonna say it. I felt like the people that came to speak to us like really like Film Independent. Like I feel like they really wanted to be here because without saying anything specific, I felt like I there was a couple of crossover and I was like, you're more excited to be here than you were at that other panel that I attended. And I just think that speaks to the community and the hard work and the authentic belief in building this advocacy and building, you know, growing artists to be more visible and more connected to the industry and have their work get the chance that they believe it deserves. Like I think that really comes through. And that really was surprising to me.
Yeah, same. I mean, for me is the people involved. I had been through a performing lab and was with 19 other performers and like 40 writers and 4 people ran the program. And I talked to one person from that. And not because I don't want to talk to anybody else, but because of how it was structured. It didn't create community and it wasn't nearly as strong as what is provided here. So yeah, I mean, if it's who you know in this town, then you get to know some great people. And that's for me what's stuck and what has continued to help.
But and know them in like what feels like for however much you can, like it feels in a real way, like an authentic way, as opposed to just like the bullet on the resume.
I mean, and because all cohorts are different, then the through line is definitely, at least for the one we went through, Dia and Ashley. So
Thank you so much. So we talked a little bit about during the intro presentation about how this is kind of like a career focused lab. Could you share with us some of the industry takeaways that you had from the lab? With the caveat that they did the lab pre-strike. So of course, I feel like the industry has gone through a lot of upheaval since then, but I'm sure that there's still some applicable knowledge that you got during those like career focused sessions, if there's anything you can share with us.
That's tough. I mean, does that apply for Doc as well? Or
I mean, you can definitely,
yeah.
I'm happy to have you answer the question as well.
yeah, I mean, the Doc market is in such a bad is in such bad shape, and that's why it's like it's hard not to just be really pessimistic. But I don't know. I think there was just like a real belief in like independent filmmaking and indie spirit. I guess maybe a good example was Smriti, who made Indian Matchmaker, the show on Netflix. Like we watched her first film that premiered at Tribeca. I don't know, 10 years before the show, and it's like the kind of film we were all kind of making. Like it was like an indie verite film that she made in India, and in Dubai. And that like many years later, she like met a Netflix exec, like said offhand, like I have access to this matchmaker, and it became a show. So that was cool that it's like you just never know where these things will lead. Like it might be a bad moment to sell something, but like a film she made many years before took off. So I think even though it's definitely like among my friends and in the industry, it's a dark moment. Like it was a very positive spirit in LA that week.
Yeah, I think to reference what Dia said, yeah, it was pretty brutal having that strike happen, right on the heels. And I mean, in my particular case, I was also pregnant when I went through the lab. So there's like a lot of different,
And it was on Zoom
and it was
because
on
It was
coming
last
out of
year
the
on Zoom, yeah.
right.
So there was a lot of external turbulence. But having said that, I think one of the cool things that, again, I really felt that we took away in a substantial way is that it really comes down the business stuff really does come down to the creative. Like you really got to work that creative. You've really got to like want to dig in there and be so like proud and happy and like eager to get this story out there because it's too hard to not. It's too much of a battle, and that will come through. That will come through in even your conversations with executives that you might not think are creative. And maybe if they don't know the specifics as to why they're not connecting with something, it probably comes down to there being something that you haven't quite fully fleshed out or attached yourself to. Um, and so I know that might sound trite, but that was some of the best advice that we got from on both sides, right? Like of the creative and then more of the career side. And I think it's just a good reminder. We definitely, even despite the strike, were able to like stay in touch with our mentor, stay in touch with some of the other execs that we met. And because this is the way the business is, it's also on you. It's on you to, you're given, visibility access into some of these people's some of these people's like building relationship with them, and then it's about fostering those relationships.
Yeah. I don't have much to add to that. And you already heard that the cookie party on Saturday is with one of our cohort.
There you go.
So,
Boom.
I'm curious because such a big part of the program is, of course, the creative sessions where not only are you getting feedback from your mentor, but you're also getting feedback from your fellow fellows. How has this impacted how you each give notes to other writers, to other filmmakers, like, and how you approach that process?
People were just very charitable. Like people were firm and clear, so it wasn't like everyone was just complimenting each other, which wouldn't have been helpful. But there was like a real spirit of generosity in the room and trying to understand where people were coming from. When there were like those harder questions, like I said, around like appearance or ethics, like we really kind of talked. There was no blaming or so they're like really just open conversations, and I've tried to do that as well. I think in general, just like talking through story is just so much better. Like, I mean, I used to kind of be an exec. Like, I worked at video departments and magazines, and we would send through notes over email, which I always hated, but it was just kind of the style. And it feels so clinical. And I know a lot of streaming execs still do that, but like, it's just so much better to just like get on the phone or like we were doing, like sit in a room and like really pick it apart. You just have so much more clarity. Like, when I get notes sent through over email from an exec, I'm just like left with so many questions. So yeah, I mean, I do produce for other people. So when I produce for people, I always try to do that. Like give them a call. If I send something through, like be available to talk about it, sit down with them in the edit. Yeah, so that was all very positive.
I think I took away really sort of refining some of my skills and what questions to ask fellow writers when giving notes. Um, and just another, reminder that when you are giving notes to another writer, that trying to remember that it's their, like, what story are they trying to tell? Not imparting necessarily the story that you would want it to be, but really try and refining that question asking process, I think helps you get there too. Like try to check some of your bias so you can help them craft the best version of what they're trying to achieve. Something cool that our cohort started doing, because a lot of us also write films or direct films or produce films. We started doing this now. We've fallen short of 100% batting average for everyone getting through their projects, but we would do one film a night. Like we would plan a night, get together, and have everybody read the film prior to that night, and then also sometimes give a movie to comp a tone, because that's obviously always like a really hard thing to kind of nail or I guess communicate. And then we would give notes to that one writer. And then we would also have dinner and hang out. And I just think that, that speaks to the idea of like, hey, let's really support the vision of this filmmaker and really dig in and see if we can find things to help their script.
Right. Yeah, really dropping the I was very cognizant of realizing that I needed to drop as much ego as possible. Not that I was that egotistical in giving notes. I really like to help, but really that it's not your story. And so as much as you can make yourself a part of the play that's happening and just give whatever's needed for that moment for as much as you can with what your ability is. Yeah, very it was amazing to get better at giving notes. And also I always try and give holistic notes, like here's everything I think packaged together, and that's not necessary most of the time. Just what type of notes are we doing? What type of notes would you like this round?
Or you give a random line note
I
that's
apologize for
probably
that.
gonna get
I
cut.
apologize for that. Okay.
We've talked a lot about the creative sessions, which of course are a big element of the program, but I'd love to hear a little bit about some of your standout sessions that were not creative sessions.
I feel like I maybe spoke about it too soon, but the stuff that like in the doc world that you worry about endlessly are legal things, releases, contracts, error and omissions insurance, fair use, and like we just had people who like really addressed how to make a movie, how to make a movie successfully, how to mitigate risk. I run a small production company now, and it's like those are the things that keep me up at night as much as how to make a big film or a film that gets programmed at a big festival. So like we had a lot of people come through and yeah, that stuff stayed with me. I think even the pitching stuff, like how to pitch, how to fundraise, being persistent. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think that was really like talking through like the technicalities of making a film was what stuck with me from those sessions. And how to make it bulletproof, for so when it comes out, there are no surprises, which is a big part of making a movie.
One of my favorites was one of our sessions one-on-one with, I think it was one of the heads of
Netflix.
comedy at Netflix.
Amanda, right?
No, the other one is well, both of them. Yes, but yeah, honestly, both of them. Amanda and I can't remember the other one's name, but just kind of breaking down without giving us too much information, like the directives that they had at that time, what they were looking for, and it was nice because you're working so hard in the creative that you think you're always being judged for your creativity, but there's so much of a machine behind certain places that like you don't need to feel bad. You do the work beforehand and then you offer it up and they'll need it at the time or they don't. And it doesn't have anything to do with where you need to value yourself.
Well, and also connecting back to the pitching process, like I know we can give this sort of personal anecdote. One of those execs, when she read the script from the lab, and had some cool notes for it. She really liked, I mean, I think she really liked us and she liked our writing, but like she just like, I can't, this is just not something in my world that I can do something with. And just started talking to us and very casually asking about other stuff we were working on. And we like totally did like a throwaway reference to a much broader, like broader network type of comedy. And she's like, I want to read that. I want to read that. Like we're actually like talking, that's the space that we're getting into. So send me that. So again, like you never know. But if you are connected to your material and like you can speak on the fly about it because you've really like sort of nurtured it and believe in it, one thing might lead to another, and then later maybe the original idea you had will come back because then they decide that those broad comedies aren't for them anymore.
Awesome. So I'd love to hear from each of you, like what advice you have for someone applying to the lab. What stage should they be at, or like how should they be approaching the application?
Mm. I don't think there's a right way. I think you want your vision articulated in the cut. So like a string out can mean many things, but I think there should be some sense of style, tone. Like this movie, my film was already kind of funny. I mean, you'd hope with a penis enlargement movie, it's kind of funny, but it was also kind of dark. People who've been watching it have said it's the saddest movie they've ever seen. And that was already kind of clear when we applied. It's gotten less sad. We've like tried desperately to pull it back, but these men are, one guy like bankrupts his family through his enlargement addiction. So you're like dealing with real material, and I had shot this stuff. So I think like having a sense of tone and arc is important going in. Like if I was only 6 months into shooting, we shot a year and a half of Verite. Like if I was 6 or 8 months into Verite, I don't think it would have been helpful because like Ruben, the guy who bankrupts his family, like wouldn't have done that yet. Like it's hard to know how we talk about his arc if he hadn't gone back like 7 times for his enlargements. So I think like be patient, and it might be next year if you're earlier in your project, and that's okay. So yeah, we were like a year and a half into the project and about 4 months into the edit. But I think it's sort of a catch-22 because you want to leave space where you're still open. So like so many times I've like been with people who are like, give me notes on my project, and I give very soft notes, but I could tell that they don't really want notes. Like they've already locked it in their mind, and like that's definitely too late for this. So yeah, somewhere in between, like a rough cut, but should have a vibe in the story.
Obviously, for us, we were on the page, so it's a little different, and at the same time, it's not that different. I kind of would say, like, don't try to win the application. And in that, I feel like, and that's how you win the application. And what I mean by that is, I think digging into the why you are telling this story, and you can sort of apply that to all parts of it. Like, why were you drawn to creating these characters? And like sort of apply that across the board. And why were you um continually drawn to further mine this story? There's a reason why, because it takes so much work that if there's a shallow relationship there, it's gonna die on the vine because you're getting married to that story. You really are, because you're just going to go back and you're going to go back and you're going to go back. And even if it's not necessarily there when you apply, you will be. So, establishing that connection to the material, I think, will actually illuminate how you speak about the story itself. And then, of course, there's like the personal questions. And again, like, just I think really like dig in and be honest. Find the very specific parts of your storytelling and your identity that have led you here and have led you to this story.
And then yeah, have fun with it. Yeah, the why, and have fun with the why
Yeah.
and dig into it. And then don't be afraid to like use whatever resources are at your disposal to like bring to life your story. As far as our pitch deck, we spent like $200 more than I wanted to, and I was like, man, it's $200. Like, what are we gonna do? And that, go out to dinner once less that month because you won't remember the dinner, but
Because it's LA.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But we have this beautiful pitch deck that we love. What's so funny about that?
Just like forgetting all dinner.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, most of them. But yeah, I mean, it was really worth it. And she was like, "No, we're worth it. The story's worth it. Let's do it." And I don't remember spending that money, but like, it's just we have this beautiful piece that we can always use to pitch it, and I think it helped paid off.
Well, and it forced us to learn more about the people in our story, and it forced us to learn more. Like, because the more you have your hand to the fire of like, hey, what story are you telling? The more you have to figure it out. And that's only gonna help you. And you're still gonna, like, to Daniel's point about being open to how the project's going to evolve. Oh my God, Project Evolve. Um, it's like I wouldn't worry about, like, especially on the page, I wouldn't worry about like, oh, I've overcooked it. It's so done, because you can always like deconstruct it and recook it.
It's also nice, having starting up a conversation with a relationship with someone on Fiverr who ended up doing the art for us. And it was kind of like, the creative process before the creative process here. So that was just cool to kind of always keep it going.
And what advice would you give someone who's about to do a lab? Like, how would you how, looking back, would you prep for your programs?
Mm. I would say just it feels like the first day of college or summer camp. Like just make friends with people, talk to people. Everyone's so interesting. Like someone I met in my cohort is a published author who now is making her first film. And like I've always thought about writing a book, and she introduced me to her book agent. Like I was never looking for that. And we had a conversation. Like you just don't know where it's going to lead. And everyone is it's such a diverse and thoughtfully curated group. So it's just fun. Yeah, I would say like go to all the stuff. If you don't have if you have the ability to go at night, that's amazing too. Like we hung out almost every night. So yeah, I don't know. It's rare as an adult that you get that time where that like feels like, the first day of school again. So it was fun.
Yeah. I would say, know your material inside and out. That way you don't have to worry about it. That way that can just kind of flow in the room. And then before you show up, walk or run a couple miles. Get it out of your system so that you can show up and not have that stress and just kind of get into it. I didn't do that, and I wish I had. So,
I definitely didn't do that. I was like 7 months pregnant. I would say all of the things that both of them said, but like just enjoy it. Enjoy it, like really. It's so like Daniel was saying, it is like school, like it's like college, and the best way. I mean, I went to graduate school, and I loved getting. There's an indulgence in getting to just spend all of your time. Um, and creative work and like and bouncing ideas and creative development. And even if it's like more strategy for like the on the business side, it's just it's great. And even when if you feel like you're tired, because I mean, at least for our lab, like they really pack in for 2 weeks. You don't know when you're gonna have that experience again, because it's not like, you don't just like lab for life. That's not a career. Um, so I would just say really like enjoy it.
Awesome. And then these last few minutes, I'd love to open it up to questions. So, folks, please pop your questions into,
We have a few
yeah,
ready to go.
yeah, go for it, Nisha.
For Erica and Ben, how far along with your series were you before you first submitted your project to the lab?
Script in a deck.
script in deck 1.0. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And script, what number, like
Oh, God.
revision was that?
I don't remember.
Between 3 and 5.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it was like 3 or 4. Version 3 or 4 at that point. I think so. And it got worked. It got worked in the lab. So yeah, come in as confident and as strong with the story as you can, but it's gonna get worked. That story engine is gonna get, I mean, like that's just so important, and that's what we really worked on as to how it's gonna staying power.
Blossom.
Blossom.
Let's see, I'm gonna go through. There's most for Erica and Ben. Okay, for Eric and Ben, does the Episodic Lab help y'all think about the distribution aspect of your proposed pilot and financing to get it made, especially since Dia, who mentioned the burgeoning space of indie TV earlier, might also be good to hear from Daniel and the doc experience too about this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it teaches you to be malleable, and it teaches you to think creatively. Because to be honest, traditionally, like the TV space is very hard to get your content actually distributed in like what we think of when we think of TV. But, it's the landscape is always changing. So, learning the new ways that you might be able to like sort of reframe or repitch your concept, whether it is like thinking about, oh, what if we shot a sizzle? We've actually shot an indie pilot. Um, and we didn't get it traditional distribution, but it led to so many other things. Um, so yeah, I would definitely I think again it's just like staying open to what possibilities this could bring you and not sticking to the sort of rigid idea of like I want to get a pilot, I want to get it to a showrunner, and I want to get it on HBO. Like,
And luckily, Film Independent doesn't have a rule where you can only do one lab. So, I mean, you're literally getting closer to distributing your and getting your project made because of all the other programs and people you're going to meet and stay in contact with.
oh, and two, like, not that this is what you want to do if you like really only want to be in TV, but we're also adapting it into a feature. So, like who knows if we would have ever thought to do that had we not done the lab.
And we applied to the feature.
Did we? I can't remember.
We did, and we didn't get in this time, but we're going to apply again next year.
That's right.
How about you, Daniel?
Yeah, like like I said, Doc is in a bit of a grim space. There was like a brief window where people claim more money was flying around. That's not the way it is now. And if you're not getting streamer money, you have to like, hunt and cheat and steal and do whatever you have to do. And sometimes I work with a crew, sometimes I'm one man band, and kind of do whatever I have to do to get a film made. I think that like the lesson there was less like no one knows right now in documentary, so it was more like just that everyone's on their own timeline. I think was really helpful. There were some people, I was like dead set on having it ready for 2026. There were someone I work I'm friends with, Nadav, made this amazing film that I thought definitely could have been ready this year, and we just hung out in New York, and he said he wants to keep re-editing it and try to get it premiered next year. And there's some people who wanted to go back and shoot, or like after the lab figured out that they were missing a scene, needed a coda scene, or maybe were missing exposition. So I think like just being patient is definitely something I try to remind myself in my life and don't do enough. And it was nice to see that everyone was on different timelines. And now I have other projects, and like they're not all like super rushed. Like that one, I was like, I'm spending 2 years shooting Verite and it's going to come out. And now I'm like inching projects, different projects on different timelines. And I think that's really, I think in documentary, it's sort of the only way now that I know of.
See, a couple questions on pitch decks. Erica and Ben, who did you use for your pitch decks? If you want to share, you could just, you said Fiverr.
I'm from Fiverr. No, I'm just kidding. No, we used two people. One like specifically there was some art elements to the monster that we wanted to really get right. And Ben is a huge practical effects guy and a huge snob when it comes to monsters. So we wanted to make sure that like that vision was properly manifested on the page. And then we found it was through a colleague of mine, her husband. Yeah, you just started asking around, and he did an incredible job with helping us design it. And um, I guess a piece of advice, two pieces of advice on pitch decks. Make sure if you work with somebody that you get all editable files because you will be changing that many, many times. Many times. And then also for efficiency, which usually we're like a lot of people, right, are procrastinating or they've got a lot going on and you're up against the clock. Have as much laid out as clearly as you can. Really try to think about all the elements that you want in it, like, and that you might want, even if you're going to cut it. Because again, sometimes you kind of get like you only get like one shot or two shots with your designer, depending on your timeline. So, being as thorough and organized with the material, I think is a good piece of advice.
I think that's a really I mean we didn't have ChatGPT at that time, or if it was available we weren't using it. So I think that's a way that you can really cut down time is using those image producing programs to get it to a place where you're like, this is kind of what I'm looking for, and then passing it off to an artist. So you're really only doing maybe one or two turnarounds, but you're really getting that authentic feel from a real artist. And then just a small thing about the whole practical effects. Yeah, less AI, more KY. Um, just the lubricant that they use in the horror movies, and it makes it look real. Just you gotta do.
Well, I have a few minutes left, so I'll throw this question over to Daniel. What sort of routes did you explore for financing to get your initial shoot off the ground?
Oh man, everything. Pitching everyone and their uncle, people I met at bars. I did Gotham Pitch Week, which is great. Highly recommend that. Tons of meetings from that. I can't say we like raised money out of it, but relationships that were ongoing. Um, the real truth is that I used to work at the New Yorker and our department was shut down basically, except for one person. So we all got severance packages, and the real answer is I used my severance package to start shooting the film. It was like 3 months of salary, so I just started flying, borrowed my friend's camera in Bushwick, and he gave it to me for free, and I started flying to this penis clinic in Dallas. And I like came up, I think with the market being bad, like the more you can do, the better. So like I run sound, I shoot. And then we had a sizzle and we got a little bit of funding from someone who was really trying to start executive producing like cool indies, gave us, and he also really wanted to come see one of these surgeries. So he flew to one and then invested a bit in the project, and that kept us going. Um, but I think the key thing in doc is much more than the deck. I found that like people narrative, it's definitely different, is really the sizzle. Like people want to see what you've shot, feel the characters, see the tone. So I had like a first sizzle after 2 shoots. That was like the severance package shoots. That got me a little bit of money. And then maybe 6 months later, we cut like a better sizzle where there were arcs. Like you need like 4 or 5 shoots for that, and that's more or less what we had when we started applying to like markets and labs and things like that. But funding is ongoing. I mean, it's still we're still raising money for color, music, and sound. So like in my world, that's like always a conversation. You just like get to the next benchmark, show it for more people, and hopefully find the way to keep going.
All right. Well, we have 1 minute left. Do you have any final tips for folks who are thinking about applying to the programs?
You should do it.
Do it.
Do it. Yeah, it's great.
We are getting paid very little to be here to tell you this. So
But you got paid.
No, there's they emailed us and like, hey Ben and Erica, do y'all want to do this? And we're like, absolutely. Like we've been
Yeah.
given so much by the program that
Yeah.
it's just a no-brainer to always give back because it's given us community.
So no brainer. Daniel emailed me right away. I said yes. And like, yeah, there's just like not organizations in the States that I know of that work this way. And it's
Mhm.
amazing. So do it, stay involved. It's yeah, best thing I did last year for sure, or this year.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank our lovely fellows for making the time to join us. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us and well, apply to the programs. And if you have any additional questions, you can always reach us at artistdevelopment@filmindependent.org. And with that, bye everybody.
Thank you,
As
everyone.
always,
Bye.
bye.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.